and today I'm going to be reviewing Hesitation Marks by 9 Inch Nails. Probably an album you may not have necessarily expected me to cover. I haven't talked about 9 Inch Nails really in the past. So I'll give you just a tiny bit of background of where I stand when it comes to 9 Inch Nails before we get into Hesitation Marks. So 9 Inch Nails are one of those bands that I respect hugely for doing what they do, pushing the boundaries of introspective, dark, ambient, industrial music. Though it doesn't mean I always like them. I mainly know the albums, well, the only albums I do know of theirs in full are The Downward Spiral, of course, my favourite of their albums and their biggest, and also The Fragile, which I've been listening to recently, the whole of that double album. And, you know, I know other bits and bobs, other singles from here and there, but their stuff from the 2000s onwards is really not something I'm at all familiar with, except, as I said, for the odd single. So, if you're a hardcore fan, then this review may not be as much for you. This review is more aimed at people who are wondering whether they should give this album a go, but aren't really that big at 9 Inch Nails fans. And yeah, so the thing with this band is that I love the lyrics of Trent Reznor. I mean, he captures such a deep, disturbing pain, and the sounds of the man, especially in The Downward Spiral, at the depths of depression, it's just geniusly done. And, you know, that's the reason that I listen to the band, because I just think it's so well done. And Trent seems to have changed a little bit going into Hesitation Marks. It's been a while since he's recorded an album. I think the last one 2008 or something, don't quote me on it, as I don't really know their more recent stuff. And yeah, he said about how that he, feels less angry and things like that. So is this album a jollier, happier affair? It's 9 Inch Nails. No. Well, one song is, but we'll get to that a bit later. And, I mean, yeah, the name indicates, or hesitation marks, which, if you didn't know, is a phrase for people who test weapons on themselves they are about to use for self-harm or suicide. I can't say that was a term I was originally aware of, I just looked it up. Okay, so let's get into this as usual. Track listing in the description below if you want a visual look at the whole thing. So let's start with Eater of Dreams. And then let's finish Eater of Dreams, because there isn't much to say. It's just a little ambient electro intro track that I don't really feel serves that much purpose, doesn't really build any atmosphere or tension, just this like, okay, that was pointless. Let's move on to the heart of this album. So start with Copy of I think you say Copy of that's how Trent says it, so it's good enough for Trent, it's good enough for me. And yeah, this is a great song, I like this a lot, which is a bit odd for me to like a drum machine, which is present all throughout this album, because I have a history of heavily criticising drum machines, but if it's used well, then I can be okay with it, and it is used well. The crisp sound of it works very well here, along with the disjointed analog synth from Trent Reznor's vocals. I really like the way this song builds up in a very dark, sinister, 9 Inch Nails way to a really nice crescendo. And then we get the best song on the album, Came Back Haunted, the single. This did take a couple of listens for me, though. I will admit, God, my hair's annoying me today. Yeah, it did take a couple of listens for me to really get into it, but now I really like this song. You see, the verse, it's very electronic with its industrial drum machine and electric bass line, and as I said, I'm not the biggest fan of electric music, to be honest. And yeah, but I do love the crescendo of the chorus as Trent bellows, Came Back Haunted. It's just a fantastic chorus. It really harkens back to more classic 9 Inch Nails material, to me at least. And yeah, I mean, what really made it though, the fuzzy guitar bridge. I've always loved the tones of the guitars Trent's always managed to have on these albums. Just such great tones, I have to say. To me, definitely the best song on the album. Though, in a way, it also does sum up the albums. This song took a bit for me to grow on. This album, it's definitely a grower. I doubt that many people will really listen to it in one and fall in love with it. I mean, of course, hardcore 9 Inch Nails fans will, but in general, it takes a while to quite penetrate its surface. Now I Find My Way. This is a nice, very atmospheric track, particularly the piano, which has a really dark feel to it. And Trent's voice, as usual, is fantastic on this song. The thick, sinister tones as it gets towards the end are almost claustrophobic, which I like a lot. And it really highlights the reduction, which, as usual, is always just immaculate. Trent Reznor is great at producing albums, and it's bloody hard to pick holes in his production. I mean, it really is dead on. Now I come to Yeah, all-time low. And this song doesn't do it for me. No, don't like it much. Well, I think the lyrics are really good, but when aren't Trent's? I mean, I just really don't like the funk groove in this song. It feels a little off for the bands, though. I mean, it's mainly in the verse, but it just doesn't quite seem to flow with the rest of the album. I don't know. I find this song a little patchy. Some parts of it are nice, but in some parts the verse just doesn't do it for me. The funky vibe, no, it really doesn't quite do it for me. Now, Disappointed. I can't say this is the most engaging of tracks the band has done, and the constant electronics with no sign of a heavy dose of guitar in sight by this stage do concern me ever so slightly as someone who, as I said, not the biggest fan of electronics. Yeah, in general, I really was hoping for a really heavy song on this album, but you don't get it. You do get guitars on here, and you get riffs, as we'll see in a second, but you don't really get that all-out heavy songs, which is a bit of a shame. But you know, that's just how this album is. And yeah, I found this track Disappointed to be, I hate to say, disappointing. I hate it when I make such bad jokes like that. Anyway, this track far too ambient for me, a bit longer than it should have been and quite dull. Everything caught me off guard, I have to say. It's the third single from the album and features a more prominent guitar this time, but instead of the heavy, fuzzy, brooding use of the instrument Trent usually gives us, we get a 90s alternative rock sounding pop song that seems pretty damn upbeat most of all, which is quite puzzling. I have to say that I actually do like it, to be honest, even if it doesn't really quite fit with anything else on it. I mean, there's still that noisy industrial stuff you used to, which you aren't exactly going to get on a Foo Fighters song. But yeah, it is quite odd. It is quite odd, the random direction to say, hey, let's go for a 90s alt rock song or something. But it kind of works. Unlike Satellite, with its electronic hand claps and dirty synths, it's too Depeche Mode for me. I don't like Depeche Mode. Let's just get that out. I really, really don't like Depeche Mode. I really hate this song, I have to say, I really, really do. Even the chorus is just far too gothic industrial for me, and not saying even after 20 listens I could see it growing on me. Luckily, Various Methods of Escape is definitely a lot better than the Dishwater Doll Satellite. This song, to me, at least seems a bit more the usual type of thing from the band, with the whispered vocal section and building guitar sounds screaming across, and a fairly melodic chorus. It's full of Trent's trademark angst, yet in a slightly mature way, and culminating definitely one of the highlights on the album. Again, though, this slightly patchy affair of hesitation marks with running, it's a fairly average song. I like the disjointed guitars and the swelling synths, but everything else feels a little flat and a little hollow on this song, and I do feel the album can feel a little hollow at times, definitely. It's just too cold for my liking, and I can't warm to it. Though I do imagine it's one of those, if I gave another 5 to 10 listens, it might gently start to reveal itself to me. A slow grower, but it's still not great. I would for you. Decent, definitely. Chorus is great, flows really well, though the verse at times can be a tad lackluster. Yeah, it's definitely made up for, especially as this song has less of the synth pop vibe to it, with some nice guitar work in the middle. Yeah, though unfortunately for me, in 2 is a bit of filler synth pop. Yeah, very abrasive for half the song, though. And this song, it's so annoying because I haven't come across any songs really that are quite like this for me. As on one hand, it has the part of the album I loathe the most, and on the other hand, it has one of my favourite parts of the album, which does seem a little odd, I know. Yeah, basically up to the halfway point, it's just a bit too sort of electronic-y for me, and yeah, as I said, the abrasive synth pop. And then there's this halfway point when the quieter section comes in, it gently builds and builds, and it's just stunning. It really is so good. It's such a damn mixed song for me. It's like, bloody hell, I just don't know what to even say about it. Okay, and the second to last song, but really the proper last song. While I'm Still Here, very ambient song, not really a fan of ambient music, even if it is NIN. And this song, I mean, yeah, it does have a bit, you know, the subtle melody many Nine Inch Nails songs have, but I just can't quite get into it. I find it fairly mediocre. And then lastly, the fairly pretentious Black Noise, with its dark electronics building into, some will probably say, intense ending, but for me, without Reznor's vocals in this electronic piece, it doesn't do anything for me, though it's only 1 minute 30. Overall, this album was, it was pretty much what I expected, really. A fairly mixed bag with some great moments, some dull. And yeah, I do, as much as I respect the more industrial synth pop, I suppose, Depeche sound on the album, it's just not something that really appeals to me and my taste in general. Yeah, and the lack of a couple of proper heavy songs disappoints a little. Well, for new listeners, I wouldn't really recommend this. I'd recommend, Downward Spiral, The Fragile. They're definitely solid albums to start off with this band. Still, I could definitely see how fans will enjoy this album, eat it up, and, love it, and it would probably be some people's favourite album of the year, and I can perfectly understand that. And I'm sure, like Radiohead's Kid A, if I gave it a bajillion listens, it might reveal itself a bit more to me, and I'll grow to like it a bit more. But I'm not sure if I really want to sink as much time into this as I did with Kid A. So overall, this is a 6.5 out of 10, I'm afraid to say. That's just what I think. This has been the Album Man. Thanks for watching, comment, subscribe, and as usual, long live rock and roll.